Hi, thanks for watching. My name is Donna Silver, and these are Threshold Tales in Mental Health. Over the next series of videos, I'm going to be talking to you about depression and anxiety. I'm going to share with you what some of the most current research says. I'll pass generally over some of that in the videos and do shorter, more intensive videos about the research a little bit later. So first of all, this video is educational. It's not a diagnosis, or it's not a substitute for proper care. It's important that you know that. If you're in a place where you are unable to care for yourself, or you think you might harm yourself, you must call emergency services. They are the right people to call in those kinds of circumstances. That means going to emergency and telling them, I'm thinking of killing myself, I want to kill myself. Or calling, in Canada it's 911, it might be different in the country you're in, so call emergency services if you are not sure you can keep yourself safe. Please call emergency services if you are not able to keep yourself safe. Sometimes with depression, thoughts of death are quite common, and in those moments of deep despair, death seems like the only answer, but it isn't. There are many other answers, and if you stay on the planet, you'll find those answers eventually. In this video, I'd like to talk a little bit about what depression is. It is more than ordinary sadness. It's a loss of pleasure in daily life. Things that a person used to have pleasure with are no longer pleasurable. It looks different for different people, but oftentimes it's characterized by low energy, disrupted sleep or appetite, slowed or agitated movements, poor concentration, guilt, worthlessness, hopelessness, and thoughts of death. So, symptom-wise, depressive episodes are characterized by a depressed mood that lasts most of the day, nearly every day, for at least 2 weeks. There are other symptoms that are also included and cause meaningful impairment. Some of those can include numbness, irritability, exhaustion, withdrawal, heaviness, or an inability to imagine a worthwhile future. Research now does not support the simple claim that depression is caused by a measurable shortage of serotonin. There are interesting words within that statement. It does not cause, does not mean there isn't a shortage of serotonin. A measurable shortage is a different issue altogether. We cannot measure it adequately, does not mean it's not there. Depression is not imaginary. And just because there's not a very clear and simple cause and effect measurement we can make, doesn't mean it's imaginary. And it also doesn't mean that antidepressants don't help. Medication helps some people through more complex effects on the brain than the simple, well, it's not simple, than the measurement of serotonin in the neural synapses. A better statement, a better sentence about chemicals and the brain and depression might be something like, depression involves changes in the brain and body systems, and no single chemical can explain or diagnose it. That's the current state of affairs. So the modern picture is that some people may be vulnerable to depression through a number of different things. Genetics, of course, are a big part of it. Temperament, early adverse situations and experiences. So people are vulnerable because they suffered, because they had traumas, because they had challenged attachment scenarios in their families of origin. They were neglected, they were abused. These predispose people to depression. Previous episodes of depression. Also, we know that when there has been one episode of depression, we are more vulnerable to another one. Physical illness can predispose someone to depression. Sleep, the quality of sleep, substance abuse, medications, and also hormones and physical illness are all elements that can physically affect a person's vulnerability to depression. But it's not just about physicality. Depression is a multifaceted and complex illness. So life experiences also have a lot to do with depression sometimes. Grief, losing someone you love, or a number of people. Trauma, loneliness, experiencing long-term discrimination, neglect, conflict, burnout, financial strain, chronic uncertainty, and loss of one's role or meaning. All of these can contribute to the vulnerability to depression. One thing that's often very common in depression for many people is the idea of ruminative loops. So thought patterns that continue over and over and over again. They can be very challenging, things like I'm a burden to the people around me, or people don't like me, or life is not worth living without these people I've lost, or it's my fault. There are many different loops that can happen in a person's mind, and thinking about them over and over and over again can form a very well-worn pathway in the brain. So we start to build this true. Just because it's easy doesn't mean a pathway is true. This is one of the pieces that we have to try to get back to remembering when we're in a depressive episode. So, ruminative loops lead to withdrawal. This leads to less connection with others and things that we enjoyed in life. That reward, that decrease in reward can lead to more hopelessness and fatigue, which in turn leads to further withdrawal. All of these things is like this big, terrible, awful circle that happens. Thoughts go around and around in the brain, and we start to respond behaviorally to those thoughts, and our lived experience becomes more challenged and less pleasurable. There's a couple of questions you can ask yourself about your own depression. You can try to notice what changed in your body, in your life, in your relationships, your sleep, work, or your sense of the future. Did something change? When did it change? Start to notice if that coincided with your feelings of sadness and grief and depression. What is keeping the loop going now? Even if that loop is not the thing that originally started it. You may have lost a job you didn't want, and the loop began to tell you something about your unemployability or your lack of worth. They're different. They're not the same thing. But the loop could lead to the discouragement that you're experiencing now. What is the smallest source of support that you have? What is the smallest piece of structure movement, meaning, medical care that you can add today if possible. Depression is real, and it's not a personal failure. It's not a one-cause story. It's like a garden. If something's wrong in a certain area, there are multiple factors involved in that. Understanding your system gives us more information, and we can begin to find pieces where we can make an effect on what you're feeling today so that tomorrow is better. I'm not going to say it's not a long process, because it probably is, and I think it's worth it. A crisis is an opportunity for growth and change, and I do hope you'll take it. For more evidence-informed conversations about depression and life's transition, please take a moment to subscribe to Threshold Tales. Information about counseling with me is found at donnasilver.com, and the link is in the description of Threshold Tales. Thank you for listening today. I hope this helped a little bit, and stay tuned for more episodes. Threshold Tales in Mental Health.